have a phrase that I use in webinars, podcasts, and wherever someone is foolish enough to allow me to speak or be seen. And if something is really good, it doesn't come from me. It's always from someone with whom I'm speaking. I'll say, "Let's go, let's go," and I'm referring to the fact that there are so many, to keep the metaphor going, nuggets, that when I talk to Isaac Brown and Todd Brown of Brown Church Development Group, the premier design build firm in the world, period. I mean, they're just fantastic. I will hear things. We don't plan these out ahead of time. We may have a few notes. They'll say we might talk about this or this. We have a conversation, and they'll say something. I say, "Man, that's gold. That is just gold." You need to go back and listen to the previous two podcasts. You need to click onto that link about the master plan, which is really a strategic plan, and go back to the series we did with Todd on that. There's just so many things of gold here. And if you're in a church facility of any kind, you need to talk to them. And by the way, their URL, churchfacilityexpert.com, or you can go to Brown Church Development Group, whichever of those, but they're churchfacilityexpert.com. And we'll be referring to those in many places within Church Answers. So welcome back, Isaac. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Thom.
And Todd, welcome back to you. We're going to talk about the big things that can go wrong. Todd, we were talking before the record button hit, and you were giving us some major categories. Can you kind of review the categories, and then we can dig a little deeper of things that cost a lot when they go wrong?
Yeah, I was thinking about, I got about six things here on my list: water issues, flooring lifespans, roofing, heating and cooling systems, plumbing and electrical systems, and then parking lots.
All right, I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to ask you to tell a story, and it's about a church in Iowa, and I'm just not going to say any more about how things can go wrong. And Isaac brought up a good point about continuation insurance, but I'm getting ahead of you. Todd, tell us what was going on.
Yeah, we had a client several years ago in Iowa that they called us and they said they had 20 acres of land that they wanted to have us design a facility. They were going to sell their facility and relocate. And in the process, this 140,000 square foot mall came up for sale. And so we did some analysis for them and helped them acquire the mall. And then we converted a portion of the mall into their church. And, as we start talking about deferred maintenance and we start talking about, things that need upkeep. This was the king of that. It was a huge piece of property. So what we did is we master planned for them, and we did the very first facility for them, and then about 12 years later we came back and we took a look at the master plan and said we want to tweak it this way. This is where we're at. So they had about 80,000 square feet completed that they were doing church in, and the rest of it we had master planned out. The day that I was going to fly to Muscatine from central Nebraska to Muscatine, Iowa, they got hit by a tornado. And their pastor called me and said, "Todd, no need to come. We're just trying to put our life back together here with the tornado." And this was in I believe it was June, early summer. And I said, "Pastor, I need to just hop on an airplane because we got to start fixing this thing." So I loaded up some engineers and my construction team, and we flew there, got boots on the ground, and started unpacking this. Well, long story short, the only thing that got hit on the whole building was the part that they were using. They had this whole massive building, but we had it master planned, and we knew exactly what needed to happen. And so the plan is that we began to work backwards, started with the large area that we had. We tweaked the master plan, got them a design right away. They were running, I believe they were running about 1,000 people, 1,200 people at the time. And so the plan was this: we're going to set up a tent out in front, and we're going to have church in a tent.
Mm.
And then we're going to go to the area that didn't get peeled off like a a can, and we're going to start building as fast as we can. And so we tried to fast track everything, and we got them the secondary part of their master plan first, and we did that really quick. And what was amazing about it, I could go on and on about this project, but what was amazing is they had more people at the first service in a tent than was attending. I mean, the whole community is just poured into this, and that church just took off and really grew. But here's what I learned: the takeaway from that: you got to have a master plan. One. Number two, something that Isaac mentioned before we talked, they had what was called continuation insurance, meaning the insurance company will pay for you to be in another facility. Well, what they did, they worked out with the insurance people, is you pay for us to be in a tent, and then you pay for a couple $1 million worth of facility, and the insurance company actually paid for the first part of their renovation.
Amazing.
Which was amazing because they were such a large church. There was no place for them to meet in town, and it really told me a couple of things. One, you must have a master plan, and two, you must have that continuation insurance, especially if you're the bigger church you are.
Isaac, I'm not going to ask you to talk Todd's story. I don't know if that can be done, but some of the areas where you have worked where the church paid a big price for not doing something, or should have done something, or potentially could have done something. Talk about one of these other areas that Todd referred to.
Oh, man. We see it all the time where churches will have multiple different committees working on different things. And, we jokingly say that sometimes churches have kind of death by committee.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And you run into this a lot with buildings, and particularly maintenance, and there'll be a maintenance team trying to work on something, and then there'll be a new building committee or something like that, and they're not in sync. I had a church that we had master planned for up in South Dakota. We get on a plane, we go up there, go to visit them, and show them where the next addition needed to be onto their building, and we walk around the side of the building, and they have a fresh, brand new poured parking lot right in that spot.
Wow.
And we turn and we're like, what is this? And a separate committee that was over maintenance and things like that decided we needed a new parking lot, while another committee had us working on expansion and whatnot. And they went to donors and they asked to fundraise for a new parking lot, and they put it in the exact worst spot that you could ever possibly put it on there, and completely shut down the entire project.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that we see all the time is, if you're going to have a maintenance team or whatever, they have to be privy to the grander strategic plan that's going on when it comes to facilities. Because if you send people off and they start raising money or doing something like that, and you're planning on holding a building campaign in any time soon, it's really important that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing.
Wow.
Otherwise, you can tank things really quick.
I don't even want to know what happened in that church and conversations and business meetings to follow. I just don't want to know. I've seen contentious meetings on things a lot less important than that. Oh my goodness. Todd, continue down the list on some of the things that can really cost a lot.
Yeah. Let me start at the top. I think that churches, we start talking about major costs in facilities. my mind goes to, and this is something when we design and we have constructability reviews on projects, we want to know how to keep the water out of the building. And I've probably been called back on churches more times than that I ever want to go back and visit these churches, because they have neglected these water issues. And so when I talk about water issues, I'm talking about your roof, your flashings, foundation. So I would say you need to find some people that are kind of well versed in construction and have them do a facility review on your facility. Visual inspection for water issues. It's simple. Just walk around the building and identify where water sits, like next to the foundation. Look at your downspouts. Water's coming down, and I've had churches call me, my basement's leaking. We can't figure it out. And I go look at the downspout. Well, I can see that there's a lake there. It's like, well, just extend the downspout. So a lot of these things aren't rocket science, but you need to have some kind of a trustee group, a group that's going to look at your facility, check for water. Groundwater is number one. You've got to have the ground higher at the building so it slopes away, and then check all your drains. Watch for ground that's settling next to the building and build it up. Look at your window wells. Just simple things like that. So water, to me, is it's going to lead to a lot of bad things. You got to control the water.
Got it.
I would say even the parking lots. I mean, if you have potholes in your parking lot, you need to get them filled. The other thing I think people need to know is cracks in your sidewalk absorb water. So you might need to, call somebody who this is what they do, have them come look at it, do a visual inspection. So water is the biggest problem, I think, with most facilities, period, church or otherwise.
Now, Todd, I know of a church, you know of the same church, that's in Southwest Florida that did not pay much attention to their HVAC. Mm-hmm. And you did a favor for them. This pastor is really kind of pathetic. You did it. By the way, folks, I'm talking about my son, Sam. And it's all tongue in cheek. But this pastor said, Sam said, hey, we got to do something. We got a lot of deferred maintenance, and I think the final cost was pretty close to $2 million for all of his HVAC. Isaac, were you a part of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it was pushing close to 3.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think that's what he said in our last webinar. It was about almost 3.
Well, I would call that expensive.
Yeah. I would too.
And so now they're doing capital fundraising for air conditioning. They're also putting some budget overages, which they're blessed to have. A lot of churches don't, and they're going to come out of it okay. But how long does I guess it depends on where it is and what it's doing. You need to be putting some type of reserves aside for HVAC, regardless, I guess. Mm-hmm. So yeah, tell us some other stories.
There are there's life cycles for a lot of the construction. The buildings that we have, things aren't going to last. So like heating and cooling, your typical heating and cooling system is going to last between 15 and 25 years. That's your lifespan.
Got it.
So there are certain things that you're going to have to replace at that point, not the whole system, unless you have an archaic system or switch systems. But my recommendation would be to get a company with heating and cooling and have a service contract with them. So you get a heating and cooling company. They come in, they service every year, they take a look at it, and you ask them things like, how long do I have before I have to replace this,
Right.
and what would it look like when we replace it? Kind of get a relationship with the trade, and then start putting money away for that.
What is what is the single most expensive thing that you have seen happen to a church? And it doesn't have to be number one. That may be unfair because there might be a lot of number twos and number ones that are close. But is it the tornado? Is it the water damage? What is it, Isaac? How about you? Any when you begin to think of and a really expensive, is it something that we've talked about or something we haven't talked about?
Yeah. Well, I think the under the category of really expensive, I would also put bad decisions under there as well. A lot of churches that get out over their skis trying to relocate, trying to um, making bad decisions on additions, remodels, things like that, maintenance things. Sometimes it's something like if you had to replace your HVAC or something like that, and you put it in the wrong spot, and you
Mm,
hinder your building from being able to get added onto. Those things are very, those are expensive things to move. We always we call them roadblocks a lot of times when you have things like your electrical units, um, your AC units, your water, bathrooms, kitchens, things like that. If you don't put those in the right spot, and that is within context of a master plan, you could be putting a roadblock in front of you. So some of these people who might be on top of the deferred maintenance and they might be getting new things in place. Um, Pay attention to what you're doing with updating these things and making sure that they're in the right spot. That you're
that's
not going to have to come back and relocate them.
that's something I have not
Yeah.
thought about, and that's obvious. Some others have it. Todd, take us down the list and finish us up on some of these big expenses we might have.
Well, what Isaac was talking about is the ultimate deferred maintenance, because usually what happens is if you put the bathroom in the wrong spot and the only place for you to expand your facility, you've deferred the cost because you're going to have to tear out the bathrooms and you're going to have to add on later.
Mm,
So again, that's why you have a strategy. But the things that I would say, we talked about water issues, we talked about heating and cooling systems, flooring and paint. Flooring's going to have different lifespans on it, but your carpets probably 8 to 12 years. Vinyl is going to be 10 to 30 years. Laminate 10 to 30 years. Porcelain tile 10 to 15 years. Hardwood can last a long time, but you got a little maintenance with it, resanding or refinishing. But your flooring, people don't think about that. I mean, your flooring's not going to typically last all that long. So just knowing what that is, and again, that ties in with your impressions. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
that's you don't want it to look ratty and have frays everywhere. Roofing, that's another big cost. Probably 15 to 20-year lifespan on most roofs. I would partner with a company, do inspections about every 3 to 5 years, have them walk the roof, give you an update. You want to be proactive with that, and before you get water stains somewhere, just have a team of people. Roofing has got to be a really big part of your overall deferred maintenance budget that you're putting money away. Parking lots, people forget about that because they will. I mean, a concrete parking lot's going to last 20 to 50 years, depending on the area that you're in the country, depending on how well you have it sealed up on the cracks. Concrete is going to last 20 to 50 years. Asphalt, probably 25 to 30 years. But if you maintain both of those, you can extend some life. So that's kind of the list. Go through your water issues, flooring lifespans, roofing lifespans, heating and cooling, and parking lot. Usually, and then the last would be plumbing and electrical. Usually, you're not going to have a whole lot of expense there unless it's a really old building.
This is incredible. Hey, I want to refer you listeners, our viewers at YouTube. Thank you. Thanks for subscribing to our channel at Church Answers at YouTube, and thank you for listening to us on your whatever podcasting app is. I used to list them all. I don't do all that anymore. But wherever you're listening to us, just to let you know, we have a fairly new resource. It's just been about 2 months. It's called the Church Health Scorecard, and it addresses a lot of the deferred maintenance issues that we're talking about here. We're not the experts in the area, but we point you to things you should be looking at. And it's one of 12 ratios that we look at, one of really kind of a health checklist. So we'll put a link to that so you can look at that. And please remember, Brown Church Development Group, churchfacilityexpert.com. Please remember that if there's anything related to the church, they are the best in the business and the facilities. And these two guys, Todd Brown, Isaac Brown, are the best of the best. They would never tell you that, but I can just tell you, we've been working with them for several years now, and I wouldn't trade this relationship for any in the world, and it's just great. So, Isaac, thank you for being a part of this podcast, as well as the webinar we recently did. So thank you for joining us here, my friend.
Absolutely, Thom.
Todd, always great to be with you. And once again, we'll refer people to the churchfacilityexpert.com. And if there's anything, I'll just say it again, related to your church facility or tangent to your church facility, at least give these people a call or connect with them through this URL. And they are the best. And we are so grateful that we have this partnership with them. This has been a 3-part episode. If you didn't listen to all 3 parts, go back and listen. If you didn't view them, go back and view them. Because of my Southern accent, a lot of people put me on 1.5 to 1 3/4 speed. You may need to just be on normal speed for the 3 of us. And I don't want you having to speed it up when I'm talking and then slow it down when they're talking. Thank you for always being a great listener and a great viewer. This has been a 3-part series on church facility with Brown Church Development Group, Todd and Isaac Brown. Save these 3 parts, go and view them or listen to them with committees or task force in your church. It's important stuff and you need to know it. As always, thank you for being a part of Rain on Leadership. We'll see you soon.